Hi guys, so just to give you a bit of a spoiler, this will be frustrating to listen to. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, someone I have a great deal of respect for, made a real dog's dinner of this interview she had with Andrew Marr of LBC. Marr asked about the European single market. Now, I've said before that this could be seen as a bit of a trick question or an attempt to put a Labour MP in a difficult spot. But since two senior Tories, one of them being Tobias Ellwood and the other a peer, Daniel Hannan, have basically come out and said that Britain should be in the single market, I think it's fine to ask Labour what their position on this is. Yvette tried to answer, but it didn't go very well.
Right. Trying to stick with the big things, if you don't mind. Straightforward question. Were we better off in the single market than we are now?
So we're gone. We've done that.
That's not my question. Were we better off than we are now?
We've had COVID and a whole series of other things since then. We've left the single market, we have left the European Union, and that is done. So the issue now is, what is the future for Britain in the world? What is the best kind of trading relationships that we want to see for the future? And what are the kinds of things that I think a credible Labour government could deliver that Boris Johnson doesn't stand a chance of delivering?
Okay. Now, I'm trying to, and I've talked about this before, I'm trying to understand the Labour position here. I understand that they don't want to fight on the Brexit battlefield because Boris Johnson can sell the idea that Labour want to take something away. So this idea that Boris Johnson got Brexit done, and if Labour start talking about Brexit, it will look like Labour are trying to take Brexit away. But I think what broke that idea is the fact that two Tories came out, Tobias Ellwood in particular, came out and said the UK should rejoin the single market. Now, not the customs union, but the single market. Now, obviously, he didn't say we should rejoin the European Union, even though if you're going to join the single market, it would be better to join the EU, but he didn't say that. It's clear that joining the single market would make it much easier for businesses to import, to export. It would be a win-win situation for businesses in Britain who are struggling at the moment. Bringing back freedom of movement would allow these businesses to get the staff that they need, or at least help them get the staff they need. And removing the Brexit red tape would make it much easier for businesses to operate. They would prefer the UK was a member of the single market. Businesses would be biting off any MP's hand who said that, yes, we're going to bring us back into the single market. The Labour Party don't want to go down that road. I don't know if it's because they don't want to give Boris Johnson some sort of advantage in the sense that he could sell it as, yes, Labour want to undo Brexit, or is it that they have to keep the racists and bigots in the red wall happy?
Let me pursue, if you won't mind, my single market thought, because there is a growing amount of quite hard economic evidence about the friction and the problems being faced by British exporters and the damage being caused to the British economy by being outside the single market and the kind of deal we've done. Now, your leader, Keir Starmer, has told LBC in absolutely clear terms there's no going back to the single market. So if there is no going back to the single market, what is your answer for all those exporters struggling?
So I think you can do things, for example, like veterinary agreements that could make big improvements in terms of some of the
not much help if you're selling them oysters
that need to be. No, but there are a series of things actually like that you could do that could get rid of some of the red tape that, you're right,
so you would propose a series of arrangements with the EU to try and cut red tape.
Yeah, I think there are those sorts of things that you can do.
It's not a fantastic answer. Look, businesses would prefer to rejoin the single market. I understand that, and I understand the political problem here of saying, yes, we want to rejoin the single market. But you could say all options are on the table. So we would consider all options. Rejoining the single market, yes, we'd consider that. Rejoin the EU, we'd consider that. But we'll put it in our manifesto when at the next election. There's not much point talking about it now, although you need to provide both voters and businesses with something. And once again, I fear that the Labour Party has been left behind here. The fact that Tobias Ellwood broke the ice and came out, a Tory who came out and said the UK should rejoin the single market, I think that was a watershed moment. It wasn't talked a lot about in the media, but I think it was a significant moment in this whole Brexit saga. And I think the Labour Party should be latching on to that and saying, well, Tobias Ellwood said it would be a good idea to rejoin the single market. I think we agree with him on that. And then what you do is you put Boris Johnson as the outsider. Of course, Tobias Ellwood does not represent a majority within the Conservative Party, but there is a real change taking place in British society. People are starting to understand that immigration is not a bad thing. It's actually a positive. We need healthcare workers. We need people picking fruit. We need people working in abattoirs or in processing or whatever. We need to make it easier for businesses to import. We need to make it easier for our businesses to export. And you don't have to call it a single market, but you have to call it as, you have to say all options are on the table.
How would you resolve the Northern Ireland Protocol?
I think it's, the challenge is to make sure that you can pull everybody together, not to try and rip up the rules in the way that, again, Boris Johnson is trying to do, but again, to pull everybody together in order to be able to do that.
You see,
I don't understand that answer. It just sounded like words. Pull everyone together. Look, I understand, the Northern Ireland Protocol is a complicated issue, and it would take a long time maybe to explain her answer. And frankly, we also have to remember that many people in Britain don't understand what's happening in Northern Ireland and frankly don't care. They don't understand why it's an issue. They don't understand why the DUP, which backed Brexit, is now complaining about that. And maybe this is not the type of interview that facilitates a complicated response. But once again, her response was not groundbreaking, not earth-shattering.
See, if you listen to some Northern Ireland business people who would say, actually, we quite like being in the single market with one foot and in the British market with the other foot, you might just leave that relatively light sea border in place and carry on as we are now. Is that a possibility?
So I think that goes back to the veterinary agreement things that I said. Something like that is the sort of thing that could make things easier in terms of the trading arrangements all around Northern Ireland.
But you accept... I'm sorry to jump in, but
I know,
you accept there has to be a border either on the island of Ireland or there has to be a sea border. And given the problems of a border on the island of Ireland, which we both understand, you would go for a sea border.
So I think the whole point about trying to do things like the veterinary agreement is that this is a way of trying to lift some of the red tape.
I'm just asking about
I know,
which
but
border.
you're kind of trying to rerun.
I'm asking you a very clear question.
You're actually trying to rerun some of the debates and things that we had several years ago and are done now. And we...
Okay, but that's not really done. These were not debates that were being had. They were being ignored at the time. My concern here is her dodging of the issue of the border. Now, there have been rumours that the DUP has met with the Labour Party recently to discuss what? I don't know. Look, the DUP are interested in power, so they perhaps see the Labour Party as winning power at the next election, and they would like to perhaps work some sort of agreement with them, and they would like to know their position on the Northern Ireland Protocol. And if Yvette Cooper's response is, I'm not going to talk about a border in the Irish Sea, or I'm not going to talk about a border on the island of Ireland, I'm just going to ignore that, that could feed into, that could be, in a sense, reaching out to the DUP, because she could easily say, look, the border has to go somewhere. The Good Friday Agreement does not permit a border on the island of Ireland. The UK government has agreed with that. You know, Tony Blair agreed with that when he was Prime Minister. Boris Johnson agrees with that. The border cannot go on the island of Ireland. So the solution was the border in the Irish Sea. And we can't get away from that. That would be the response. That's not going to change. But she didn't say that, which gives me, maybe I'm scaremongering or something, maybe I'm overly concerned, but the fact that she or her party met with the DUP has me concerned that they are trying to work out something between them which would do away with the border in the Irish Sea. I don't know. But this interview did not go very well. Maybe I'm wrong. It did go very well. Let me know in the comments. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.